Margaret Baker, a 72-year-old retired nurse from Portland, watched her retirement savings decrease by 35% after following the aggressive investment strategy of a famous billionaire author. "I read his best-selling book, attended his seminar, and believed his promise that anyone could build wealth using his methods," and she recalls. 2 years later, I was facing the possibility of returning to work part-time just to cover my basic expenses. What Margaret discovered, painfully, was that strategies designed for billionaires with vast resources often fail catastrophically when applied to retirement finances. Have you ever wondered why so much financial advice comes from billionaires whose circumstances bear absolutely no resemblance to your own retirement reality? Why do we eagerly follow guidance from people who have never worried about healthcare costs, lived on a fixed income, or needed to make their savings last for decades? Today, we're re-exploring a revolutionary perspective on retirement planning, one based not on the flashy promises of modern financial gurus, but on the pragmatic, protective, strategic principles first articulated by Niccolò Machiavelli in Renaissance Italy. While this political philosopher is often mischaracterized as promoting ruthlessness, his actual writings contain timeless wisdom about protecting what you value from those who would take it from you, a perfect framework for retirement security. The disconnect between billionaire advice and practical retirement planning isn't just a matter of scale. It is a fundamental difference in objectives. Billionaires focus on wealth accumulation and growth, often with high tolerance for risk and volatility. Retirees need stability, predictable income, and protection against catastrophic loss. This difference creates a dangerous situation when seniors apply strategies designed for entirely different circumstances. Consider Warren Buffett's famous strategy of investing heavily during market downturns. While containing wisdom, this approach requires massive cash reserves most retirees simply don't have. Or consider how billionaires often advise entrepreneurship and taking big risks, advice that could devastate a senior with limited time to recover from failures. The first Machiavellian principle crucial for retirement security is what I call practical means for necessary ends. This involves clearly identifying your true financial priorities and directing resources specifically toward those goals, without diversion to impressive but unnecessary objectives. David Martinez, a retired factory manager from Cleveland, applied this principle after nearly depleting his savings on a franchise opportunity recommended by a billionaire ace book. "I realized I didn't need to build a business empire. I needed reliable monthly income and protection against medical expenses. Once I redirected my strategy toward those specific goals, my financial stress decreased dramatically." The second core principle involves maintaining strategic skepticism about financial trends. Machiavelli understood that following popular momentum often leads to vulnerability. When everyone rushes toward a particular investment or strategy, prices inflate and risks increase. True strategic thinking often means moving counter to popular enthusiasm, focusing on fundamentals rather than excitement. Thomas Anderson from Tampa credits this principle with protecting his retirement savings during multiple market bubbles. Third, while friends jumped into tech stocks, cryptocurrency, and real estate flipping based on billionaire success stories, I evaluated each trend against my specific needs and resources. This meant missing some gains, but more importantly, avoiding devastating losses I couldn't recover from at my age. The third essential principle for retirement security is what Machiavelli recognized as the priority of security over other interests. This means making financial safety your primary consideration, even when it means sacrificing potential gains or impressive-sounding opportunities. Unlike billionaires who can absorb significant losses, most retirees need to prioritize conservation over accumulation. Barbara Nelson, a retired teacher from Seattle, applies this principle through her security-first approach. "I ensure my basic needs are covered by guaranteed income sources before considering any investments with risk. Billionaires can gamble with surplus millions, but I need every dollar to perform a specific function in my financial life." By applying these Machiavellian principles, you develop a retirement strategy that serves your actual circumstances rather than chasing approaches designed for people with vastly different resources, timelines, and objectives. This doesn't mean rejecting all conventional financial wisdom, but rather filtering it through the lens of your specific situation and needs. In our next section, we'll explore practical protection strategies that translate these principles into specific actions, including techniques for evaluating financial advice, protecting your assets from both market volatility and predatory practices, and creating income stability in an unstable economic environment. Having established the fundamental Machiavellian principles for retirement security, let us explore specific protection strategies that translate these concepts into practical actions. These approaches will help you evaluate advice, protect your assets, and create stability regardless of market conditions. The first protective strategy involves developing what I call the resource reality filter, a mental framework for evaluating any financial advice based on the resources it actually requires. When encountering retirement advice, ask yourself, what specific resources would I need to implement this successfully? Consider not just money, but time, expertise, connections, backup capital, and risk tolerance. This analysis often reveals why billionaire strategies fail for everyday retirees. William Chen from Raleigh implemented this approach after losing money on an investment recommended by a famous wealth guru. I realized the strategy required not just initial capital, but reserves for market downturns, specialized knowledge of the industry, and the ability to wait years for returns. The billionaire had these resources, I did not. The second protection strategy focuses on creating what Machiavelli would recognize as defensive fortifications around your core assets. Unlike billionaires who can recover from major losses, retirees need multiple layers of protection for their essential resources. This means maintaining emergency reserves separate from investment accounts, using appropriate insurance products, establishing legal protections like trusts when suitable, and diversifying income sources. Richard Taylor, a retired government employee from Minneapolis, created his financial fortification system after watching a friend lose significant savings in a market downturn. I now maintain 3 distinct financial categories: untouchable safety funds in FDIC-insured accounts, moderately conservative investments for income, and only then, a small portion for higher risk opportunities. Billionaire advice often focuses entirely on the third category. The third practical strategy involves implementing expertise alignment, matching your financial activities to your actual knowledge and experience rather than attempting to operate in domains where billionaires have teams of specialists. This means focusing your financial efforts in areas where you have genuine expertise and using professional management for areas where you don't. Susan Williams from Phoenix discovered the importance of expertise alignment after attempting to day trade stocks based on a billionaire's success story. I was a healthcare administrator for 30 years with no background in market analysis. Now, I focus my personal efforts on healthcare expense management, where my professional knowledge gives me an edge, and use index funds for market exposure. Finally, your fourth protection strategy should include developing a personalized income security system that prioritizes reliable cash flow over potential growth. Unlike billionaires focused on asset appreciation, most retirees need to generate consistent income to cover living expenses. This system should include Social Security optimization, consideration of appropriate annuity products for guaranteed income, dividend-generating investments, and strategic withdrawals from retirement accounts. James Wilson from Detroit implemented this approach after realizing that fluctuating investment returns were causing significant anxiety. I worked with a fee-only advisor to create enough guaranteed monthly income to cover my essential expenses. This foundation gives me peace of mind and allows me to be more strategic with my remaining investments. The fifth protective strategy involves creating what Machiavelli would call a council of advisors, a small group of trusted professionals with different perspectives who can provide balanced guidance. Unlike billionaires with extensive teams, retirees must carefully select a few key advisors while maintaining personal oversight. Jennifer Lewis, a retired executive from Nashville, constructed her advisory council strategically. I have a fee-only financial planner, an elder law attorney, an accountant, and a trusted friend with business experience. Each provides different perspectives, and their occasional disagreements often reveal important considerations I might have missed. Nos, these practical protection strategies create a system that acknowledges the reality of retirement finances, prioritizing security, income reliability, and risk management over the growth-focused strategies that dominate billionaire advice. By implementing these approaches, you maintain control over your financial future while protecting against both market volatility and inappropriate advice. In our next section, we will explore strategies for managing financial relationships, including techniques for working effectively with advisors, family members, and financial institutions while maintaining your autonomy and protecting your interests. Building on our Machiavellian principles and protection strategies, let us now focus on effectively managing your financial relationships during retirement. This area is where the contrast between billionaire advice and strategic wisdom becomes particularly evident, as billionaires operate with teams of specialized advisors, while most retirees must navigate these relationships independently. The first critical element in managing financial relationships is what Machiavelli called the balance between trust and verification. Many retirees either trust financial professionals completely or maintain such skepticism that they cannot benefit from legitimate expertise. The strategic middle path involves establishing relationships based on qualified trust, verified through consistent oversight. Patricia Garcia, a retired business owner from Boston, describes her approach. "I trust my financial advisor's expertise, but I verify everything. I review every statement, question any changes or recommendations, and periodically check that our agreed-upon strategy is being followed." This oversight has caught several potential problems before they developed. When selecting financial advisors, implement the Machiavellian principle of the alignment of interests by preferring fee-only fiduciaries whose compensation doesn't depend on selling you specific products. This structure reduces the inherent conflicts that exist in commission-based relationships. Unlike billionaires who can absorb the costs of conflicted advice, retirees need advisors whose financial interests directly align with their clients' success. Robert Johnson from Denver switched to a fee-only advisor after discovering his previous advisor had recommended products based primarily on their commission structure. The difference was immediate. Recommendations focused on my needs rather than generating transaction fees, and the transparency about costs eliminated my constant suspicion about hidden motivations. For managing family financial relationships, which often involve complex emotional dynamics, implement what Machiavelli would recognize as benevolent boundary setting. Dutes. This involves clearly separating your financial decisions from family pressures while maintaining supportive relationships. Unlike billionaires with complex family offices and legal structures, most retirees must create these boundaries through clear communication and consistent enforcement. Carol Martinez from Atlanta established such boundaries after feeling pressured to fund her grandson's business venture. "I created a simple family loan policy that applies equally to everyone. Maximum amounts, repayment terms, and my total annual lending budget. This removed the emotional dimension from individual requests and protected both my finances and our relationships." When dealing with financial institutions, utilize the Machiavellian technique of strategic positioning. This involves carefully managing how you present yourself and your requirements to ensure optimal treatment. Unlike billionaires whose assets automatically command attention, retirees must strategically establish their value as clients. Linda Jackson, a retired healthcare worker from St. Louis, applies this principle when dealing with her bank. "I researched competing offers before my CD renewal, presented those options during my appointment, and made it clear I was prepared to transfer my accounts if necessary. This approach secured me significantly better terms than their initial offer." Another crucial aspect of financial relationship management involves what Machiavelli recognized as strategic adaptability in agreements. This means maintaining flexibility to adjust or exit arrangements when circumstances change. Review all financial relationships annually, asking, "Does this relationship still serve my current goals? Has the value proposition changed? Are there alternatives I should consider? Elizabeth Kim, a retired accountant from San Diego, applies this principle through annual financial relationship reviews. I schedule a specific day each January to evaluate all my financial relationships. Several times this process has revealed fees that had increased, services that had decreased, or new options that better suited my changing needs. When implementing these relationship strategies, remember that perception management works both ways. Financial professionals, family members, and institutions are constantly forming impressions about your financial sophistication and vulnerability. By demonstrating quiet confidence, requesting proper documentation, asking informed questions, and showing appropriate caution, you shape how others interact with you financially. Michael Thompson from Austin notes, I've observed that when I take notes during financial discussions, ask specific questions about costs and alternatives, and request time to consider options, the quality of recommendations I receive improves dramatically. These simple behaviors signal that I am not easily manipulated. In our final section, I'll integrate these principles and strategies into a comprehensive system for retirement security, with specific emphasis on implementing these approaches in today's digital environment and adapting Machiavellian wisdom to modern financial challenges. We've explored Machiavellian principles, protection strategies, and relationship management techniques that provide alternatives to billionaire advice. Now let us integrate these elements into a comprehensive system that adapts classical strategic wisdom to today's retirement landscape. This integrated approach begins with what I call the strategic security framework, a systematic process for organizing your retirement finances based on Machiavellian security principles rather than growth maximization. Unlike billionaire models that prioritize asset accumulation, this framework focuses first on creating stability and protection before considering growth opportunities. The first component involves implementing the three-tier resource allocation system. This means organizing your assets into three distinct categories: security foundation, covering 3 to 5 years of essential expenses in protected vehicles; stable income generation, producing reliable monthly cash flow; and opportunity capital, funds available for higher return possibilities. Unlike the billionaire approach that often focuses exclusively on maximizing returns across all assets, this stratified system ensures your essential needs remain protected regardless of market conditions. Mary Patel, a retired educator from Raleigh, restructured her finances using this approach after a market downturn depleted her previous portfolio. I now sleep soundly, knowing my essential expenses are covered for years ahead through guaranteed sources, while still maintaining some assets positioned for growth. This balanced approach provides both security and opportunity. The second element involves creating a digital defense protocol that adapts Machiavellian security principles to today's online financial environment. This includes using separate email accounts for financial matters, implementing two-factor authentication on all financial portals, regularly monitoring accounts for unauthorized activity, maintaining updated security software, and being particularly cautious about financial solicitations through social media and email. When integrating these strategies, develop what Machiavelli would recognize as an implementation timeline, a realistic schedule for gradually restructuring your retirement approach. Rather than attempting immediate transformation, prioritize critical protective measures first, then systematically address other components. This measured approach prevents the overwhelming feeling that often leads to inaction. Kenneth Davis, a retired military officer from Seattle, created a 6-month implementation schedule. I tackled one major financial area each month, first securing essential income, then establishing proper insurance coverage, then addressing investment allocations. This systematic approach made the process manageable while quickly establishing critical protections. Toistis, as you implement this integrated system, remember that Machiavellian financial management requires ongoing vigilance rather than set-and-forget solutions. Schedule quarterly reviews of your protection systems, relationship management practices, and resource allocations to ensure they continue serving your evolving needs. The contrast between billionaire financial models and Machiavellian security principles represents fundamentally different philosophies of wealth management. Billionaire models typically emphasize maximizing growth, accepting volatility, leveraging extensive resources, and having teams handle complexity. Machiavellian principles focus on preserving essential resources, creating stability, operating within actual constraints, and maintaining personal control. This difference doesn't mean rejecting all conventional financial wisdom. Rather, it means filtering that wisdom through the lens of your specific circumstances, needs, and resources. The question becomes not, what would Warren Buffett do? But, what would Warren Buffett do if he were 70 years old, living on a fixed income, with no team of analysts and needing his money to last 20+ years? Thus, by implementing these Machiavellian principles, you create a retirement strategy that serves your actual circumstances rather than chasing approaches designed for people with vastly different resources and objectives. This realistic approach provides something billionaire advice often fails to deliver: financial peace of mind for everyday retirees. George Washington, a retired construction worker from Minneapolis, summarizes the impact of this approach. For years, I felt inadequate because I couldn't make billionaire strategies work with my retirement savings. Adopting these protective principles helped me realize I wasn't failing at their game. I was playing the wrong game entirely. Now I focus on financial security rather than impressive growth, and both my finances and my peace of mind have improved. If you've found value in these insights, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing for more strategic wisdom adapted for retirement finances. Share this information with friends and family who might benefit from this alternative to conventional billionaire advice. Together, we can build a community of strategically minded retirees who maintain control of their financial security through practical, proven approaches. Remember, true retirement wisdom isn't measured by how much you accumulate, but by how effectively you protect what matters most. While billionaire advice might sound impressive, Machiavellian strategic thinking will help ensure your financial security regardless of what the economic future holds.